All right, welcome back to another edition of the Dirty Verdict Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Peter Taaffe.
I'm your other host, Kyle Herbert.
And I'm Kyle Herbert's stunt double, Bill Ogden.
Kyle, we've got another special guest, and since you helped arrange this, I'm going to give you the honor of introducing him.
My friend, my colleague, longtime fantastic defense lawyer, recently made the switch to the good guys, one Michael Pita.
Welcomed. Well, to the right side.
Thanks a whole lot for having me.
All right, so Kyle kind of spoiled the ending, but you recently joined one of probably one of the all-time great episode guests, the Thiessens.
I did.
And you joined their law firm recently. Now, when they were here, I think I told you before we started, they mentioned that, they're obviously criminal lawyers par excellence, but they, with that practice, they have clients that come back to him that say, hey, I've got a personal injury matter. And he said, well, we just refer them to people, and we didn't even think about like getting a referral fee or anything like that. And so then Bill and Kyle auditioned for his personal injury work.
Both tried really hard.
Yeah, I was actually auditioning for a part in a musical. I didn't know we were going for business.
I wanted to be Mrs. Thiessen's ski Sherpa, but none of those things worked out.
Bill wanted the office at their Aspen office, and we'll get into that.
I'm working on it.
But anyhow, so clearly they had something up their sleeve, and that probably were either thinking about you or already had something in play. So how did that come about?
So, I've been a defense attorney for 20 years, somewhere along those lines. And I had been thinking about making the switch since this summer. And it actually was kind of a serendipitous event. I happened to run into Mark. Mark and I have known each other for about 3 years. We play tennis together, and I happened to run into him one day after church at Avalon Diner.
Great spot.
Great spot.
Love Avalon Diner.
Fantastic megas. And he said, hey, Mike, I'm thinking about opening a PI practice. I need a defense attorneys that might be willing to make the switch. And I was like, in fact, I do. Yeah, and for a little bit. So we went to lunch a couple times and just happened to make it work.
And so your most recent stop on that side was with the Allstate in-house group, which I think at the time was Lisa Chastain and Associates.
It was Lisa Chastain. Now it's Maela Gonzalez.
Okay, and that's just been in the last couple months.
That was, I think, less than a month before I left.
Okay, so you'd been there, which was Allstate in-house, captive law firm where you represent Allstate insureds, or you did in auto accidents.
Right.
But you being senior, I felt like you were kind of managing quite a bit.
I was what they call a lead counsel. So lead counsel, the role changed several times, or really the role changed as I was there. When I first became lead counsel, I think it was 2018, we had 3 lead counsel in the Houston office. We managed anywhere from the attorneys on down to the mailroom. And then there was a restructuring, and they brought in paralegals to manage kind of the staff, and then the lead counsel managed the attorneys. So,
Mike, before you go any further, I feel like my co-counsel here didn't give you enough ground rules. You just need to lean into that mic a little bit so we make sure our listeners can hear all of the silvery tones.
Well, I just move the mic towards my mouth.
You can move your face towards the mic or the mic towards your face. Totally up to you.
I will work on it.
Thanks.
Okay, so talking about Allstate, did Josh get all caught enough where you can work with it? Okay, so you're representing Allstate Insurance. Roughly how many cases were you trying? I guess it's a little skewed because of COVID, but pre-COVID, how many were you trying a year?
Well, pre-COVID, our attorneys were trying anywhere between 12 to 20 cases per year. I think at our peak, we were trying, as an office, we were trying anywhere between 250 and 300 cases a year. It got a little different after COVID. Juries changed after COVID. So we weren't trying as many cases after COVID. We were starting to pick up by the time that I left, but the post-COVID jury is vastly different than the pre-COVID jury.
Yeah, they are.
And that would be more pro plaintiffs
True.
side.
Or, and hear me out here,
Justice.
plaintiffs lawyers that just got really good cases all at once, and then they all just started hitting in Harris County over and over and over again.
If that is your perspective, okay.
6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Hey, I'm no mathematician, but statistics say maybe I'm right. I got an argument. Not a good one.
I'll take it. Accept it. So prior to that, you were with another captive law firm?
I actually...
Oh, it was a different name of Allstate before the Allstate firm.
Yes. I started with Allstate in November 2016. At that time, we were
Susan
L. Florence and Associates, and then we became...
Why did they change the name?
I was about to ask you,
They even have a name. Why don't you just be, we are Allstate?
because then they have to say that in open. Yeah, in jury selection, you got to say that.
Do you?
No, but you can as a plaintiff's lawyer.
I can't say, I'm Mike.
Yes.
Seems like a silly thing. Like,
No, you're right. The reason is because of the federal source rule. That ideally, in a perfect world, we know juries all know this, but in a perfect world, the jury is not supposed to consider insurance. So we can't go into the courtroom saying, my name is Mike Pita, I work for Allstate Insurance Company.
well, you can, and you choose not.
I think it implies a little bit of a conflict too, because you technically you work for the client next to you, not the carrier, and so I get that as well.
There's a little bit of... The way it works is under Texas law, Texas is what they call a two-client state. Some jurisdictions don't allow for insurance companies to represent their insurers in court because they consider it a corporation practicing law. In Texas, the Supreme Court and the rules say that we can, or that is allowed. My apologies for using the word we. It's a mind shift that I have to make.
Don't worry, you only make the mistake a couple times here.
No worries. But under Texas law, as long as the interest of the insured and the interest of the insurance company are aligned, staff counsel can be used. The moment those interests diverge, the staff counsel office has to get rid of that case to retain counsel.
So I assume when you're at this captive counsel,
Legal services captive is a different term.
client legal services. Okay,
Staff counsel is the best word for it.
oh, staff counsel. So when you're doing that, you're not doing any first party work, I assume.
Yeah, we're doing first party work as well.
Okay, just I guess it can't have overlap to an extent.
Well, because first party is different because in that case you have the insured suing the insurance company, and as long as there's no conflict, like you representing the insured in another case or something like that,
Sure.
you can do first party cases.
Okay.
And just to reset it, because we do have some non-lawyers or litigators. So Bill hits me in a car accident, which could happen this evening. And Bill is an Allstate. He has Allstate as his insurance. I sue Bill, and assuming there's no conflict, meaning there's not, Bill wasn't grossly negligent or some allegation of gross negligence, then Allstate will have a staff counsel appointed to represent Bill, and Bill probably doesn't do anything except maybe come for a deposition, and that's about it. And try
Answer discovery and come for a deposition and go to trial.
Okay, but it's an Allstate employee lawyer who is handling that for him.
Yes.
And that was what your group should do. Got it. Okay.
What was the best thing about working all those years at Allstate?
Not having to bill.
Okay, so obviously a positive, and for young lawyers, a lot of people recommend this, is go work for a staff counsel firm like that to get trial experience.
So the way I would always tell my team when I was, because when I left, I'd managed lawyers of my 7 or 8 years that I was Allstate, I was managing attorneys for 5 years. And what I would tell lawyers is that you can go to a private practice, learn how to be a litigator. You can go work for a firm, learn how to be a litigator. But what we will teach you at Allstate is we're going to teach you how to be a trial attorney. And there is a huge difference between being a litigator and being a trial attorney. And it's something I didn't learn until I got to Allstate.
A lot of our fans learn that the easy way because they look at me and they're like, that guy's a trial attorney. And then they look at Kyle and they're like, with that hair, litigator.
He's purely human.
He's actually, that's a pro, and the proof's in the pudding because y'all would try tons of cases. All right, so decision to move. So you mentioned you and Mark talked and that kind of got things going. So did you want to go over on to the plaintiff side, or are you just looking for a change to maybe something different firm? Or
I was looking for the right opportunity. I wanted to build a practice, but I needed, I've got 2 kids and a family. I needed to mitigate my risk as best as I could.
Sure.
And jumping over to Mark allowed me to kind of mitigate that risk and be able to handle that issue and still be able to build a practice.
And so, yeah, so you were talking offline, like you've got all this knowledge on managing a law office. And so you're really kind of, it's an interesting deal where you're setting it up and there's a lot of startup, but you have a built-in pipeline kind of clients, and you've got colleagues that know enough. So it's not like, it's a corporate lawyer or something who doesn't know anything about litigation.
True.
So how are you going about setting up a practice?
So, I know process a lot, and I think when you get into practicing law, there's a lot of process. There's the rules of evidence and the Texas rules, but there's a lot of process. Like you need to do this by this date and that by that date. I know that very well, so I can implement a lot of those processes into creating how we're going to practice this, how we're going to practice, which I think is a really unique opportunity that me and my team get to build that process kind of from the ground up. I know what works and what doesn't work, and I can use what I've learned in the past to create a process that will best help our clients get the justice that they deserve.
Sure.
All right. Well,
Which is exactly what you're doing at Allstate.
not anymore. So I've hogged the questions. Kyle, would you like to proceed?
Are you going to help do any criminal stuff at Mark's Place, or are you looking to learn any of that side of the business, or just all civil?
I'll learn anything that needs to help. That will help the firm.
Yeah.
If it needs to be, if he needs me to do some criminal law, I'll do that. I don't want to pigeonhole myself into just being a PI attorney, even though that's what I know.
Was Allstate sad to see you go? Did they throw you a party? Did they say thanks for all these years of service, or did they?
My team threw me a party.
Oh,
Did your office know that you were switching sides when you were leaving?
I told them, and just in full disclosure, I told them.
Did it like rub anyone the wrong way?
It rubbed me the wrong way.
Good. I'm glad that we're having less true believers.
They all knew who I was. They all knew what I was about. And, I think that over the span of 8 years, I developed a lot of credibility. I think both of you. You've worked with me in the past.
sure, a bunch yet.
So I developed a lot of credibility. So people trusted me. And I think there was a lot of understanding for deciding to make a move at that time.
Did you take anybody with you?
I did not.
Did anybody there you wanted to take? Because I'll go poach them. We're looking for one. We're looking for one. We go out. Tell me offline.
I'll ask a question that's a little bit of inside baseball, and sure. But this question is really not geared towards your particular time at any one firm, but something that everybody here has experienced. So sometimes, you ask the plaintiff's lawyer, can you do X, Y, and Z, some discovery dispute? And they say, well, I got to go check with my client. And 9 times out of 10, that's nonsense. The attorney's making the decision, but he might put an unsavory choice off on clients, right? You understand what I'm saying? My experience sometimes in dealing with in-house captive counsel was very early on in the lawsuit, I would ask them, like, we got to do this, we got to do that. You can't just follow like the brain dead playbook you always got to follow. And they would say, oh, the adjuster won't let me do that. The adjuster doesn't listen to me. The adjuster. And so me, as a plaintiff's lawyer, as soon as somebody tells me they don't have authority to make decisions on their own, I just quit communicating with them.
Right.
I just go, you are another box to check. I will serve you with what needs to be served, but I don't expect you're going to behave like a lawyer.
Right.
How much of that on the defense side is accurate, or you're completely tethered to an adjuster's whims? And how much, I guess I'm trying to get a sense, how much discretion do you guys actually get to practice law? And I'm sure it changes on level of experience and all that, but I don't know, I don't want to speak for everybody here, but the minute an opposing lawyer tells me they don't have authority to make decisions, I go, great, we don't ever need to speak anymore.
I tap them on the top of the head.
And then they call me and they say, can you do X, Y, and Z? And I go, sir, I don't know why you're calling here. You've already explained to me you have no authority to make decisions.
But I will tell you my view.
Yeah, please.
To speak for anybody else, but I'll tell you my view. My view is that it is the attorney's job to litigate the case and to provide the best defense he can for his client or the insured. And that's kind of what the contract for insurance says, right? It's the lawyer is to practice law. When it came down to what the value of the case was, all I could do was provide information to the adjuster to determine what the value of the case was. And if I disagreed with them, there were channels we could go through that I could manage that. After being there for 7 years, for the most part, if I disagreed with an adjuster, they'd probably listen to me.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was a second-year lawyer or something, they would probably call me in to say, hey, what do you think about this? But really, at the end of the day, if I was making a judgment call on what the value of the case was, 9 times out of 10, that was.
Does that go into your reporting? Like, what is there like a section where you say, like, what do you think it's worth? Or is it
Not going
oh, dang it.
Well, it's gotta be. I mean, you don't have
Wasn't a no.
there. That's the privilege.
Yeah, oh yeah, well that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Well, I was just curious.
I'll say this, Kyle. When I was in practice, I never saw a lawyer, like if it was something like an extension on discovery. I never had a lawyer that was with an insurance representing, that had been insurance defense lawyer who said, let me talk to the adjuster. And then now on the mediation side, I'd find that very surprising if an adjuster was getting involved in blocking and tackling on the legal stuff, definitely on the value stuff and like what drives value or whatever. But as far as like, oh, we've got this guy by the, on this discovery thing, let's, don't agree to that, Mike. And you're like, I got to talk to that judge, for the rest of my career. I'm not going to do that.
Well, and here's the way that I kind of view. I may be a little naive in the way I practice law, but if you've got the average attorney, let's just say an attorney has 80 cases, right? Somebody like Kyle may have had me over the barrel on one case. If he does me wrong on that case, I'm going to remember that the next time that I have him over the barrel on another case. And, I think that's something that gets lost a lot on younger attorneys.
Oh, it was lost on me.
We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
It gets lost, like, relationships are important. Relationships matter. And trust is important. Trust matters.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
So you're good. But, Kyle and I have dealt with that dealings when I was over at Allstate. And Kyle, I think for the most part, knew that if I was telling him something, that's the way it was, or that's the way what I had.
Sure.
And people, for the most part, didn't try and hold over the barrel.
The problem was clawing through 7 layers of mediocrity to get to you. Man, I don't mean that.
He's the mediocrity.
Not mediocrity, bureaucracy.
That is a compliment.
Bureaucracy, yeah, that's a better word.
Oh, I thought you meant you were mediocre and he has to claw through 7 layers of you.
I'll think you will. Both can be true at the same time.
There we go.
So I know more complaints about there being just getting lawyers on the phone or in contact. Like if you wanted an extension, like calling, emailing, not getting a response, and then it's like, okay, we got an issue. That's more of the complaints I hear.
But the issue about hosing another attorney, I was in a hearing once where it wasn't me making either one of these arguments, and there was multiple parties involved, and one of the lawyers had the other lawyer over the barrel on a relatively ticky-tacky issue and was really of not great consequence to the case.
Are you talking about what my story is with Lapidus? He humbled me, and I deserved it.
No. I was just going to say that the judge ruled in a way that I think is appropriate for all lawyers to keep in mind. The judge, this was a small group of maritime lawyers that were all going to see each other again. And the lawyer said, young man, you were right on the law. I will rule in your favor. I want you to understand from this point forward, everybody better be practicing perfect law with no mistakes, because there will be no grace given. There will be no quarter. So get everything exactly right from here on out. And like that lawyer was like, oh man, like, right?
Well, I think to that point is learning which battles to fight.
Sure, yeah.
So you had a story that Kyle interrupted you when you were going to tell it?
Yeah, I really do.
It was going to be a good story too. All right. It's probably so. One thing that you and Kyle have in common now that you mentioned the maritime is y'all both spent time at Brown Sims. Were y'all there at this time?
Are you serious?
I did.
Okay, man. You all right?
I'm
Kyle made it at 3 weeks before you got...
I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah.
I think every lawyer goes through there at some point.
After 3 weeks you're there, did they tell you passed the Herbert line, meaning similar than Kyle Herbert?
I don't even want to talk about it. I need a lot more cocktails to...
It's apple juice.
Coffee.
I worked there probably like 2005 to 2007. 2007.
How old are you?
Me? 107.
You beat me there.
I did?
Yeah.
So, Mike, did you go back? Were you at Brown Sims after you had that stint as in-house or general counsel?
No, I went from Brown Sims to general counsel to Allstate.
Okay. So, and then before that, you talked offline. You were at Johnson Trent,
I was.
and then you were at another firm that I wasn't familiar with for a long time.
It was a firm called the Thiessen Law Firm. It was basically my first job out of law school. I went to law school in Louisiana, and it was a Louisiana firm called Johnson and Remondé. And
What?
It's French. It's French.
Where
We used a French word when we started. Did you guys?
It just rubbed off on me. Was it in New Orleans or what town?
it was in New Orleans, or they were actually based out of Lafayette. But between my second and third year of law school, I clerked with them in the New Orleans office for 6 weeks. And then I clerked at Dunkesell for 6 weeks. And my contact at Dunkesell, a guy named Jim Smith, I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was either right after my clerkship ended or at some point he's like, well, I'm leaving Dunkesell. Really, that kind of sucks. But I'm starting the Houston office for this Louisiana firm that you're working for. So that's how I ended up there. And then through various iterations, I was there for about, I think, 9 years.
Which law school did you go to in Louisiana?
Tulane.
Tulane.
Are you from New Orleans?
I'm not. I'm from Houston.
Okay.
What part of town?
What part of town in Houston am I from? I grew up, I went to Stratford. I go to West Side.
I had a couple friends get kicked out of Tulane Law School. They really enjoyed it.
It's a battle. So here's,
Hold on. Have you ever been to Harris? Because Bill has a story about Harris.
Harris it opens when I
I
was,
can't tell it. I don't know. Yeah,
We all are fresh from spending quite a bit of time in New Orleans, but the Sugar Bowl.
the best.
No.
So here's my introduction to New Orleans. A good friend of mine, I'm still good friends with him. We did a law school orientation, and we were sitting in the lunch line or something, and I met him, and he ended up becoming one of my best friends in law school. But it was like the first full week of classes in school, and I'm trying to take my studies seriously. I think I was studying contracts or something. And this is before cell phones, right? So you actually had a landline. And we were all planning on going out that night. And he doesn't call me. I'm like, screw this, I'm going to bed. It's like 11 o'clock at night. I'm in my pajamas. He calls me, I was like, all right, we'll come to get you in like 5 minutes. Dude, I need my pajamas. Picked me up at 11:30. I think that night we ended up at a place called R&R until we got kicked out at 5:30 or 6.
you got to go shower for class.
This was on Saturday.
Oh,
So we got kicked out like 5:30 or 6, and the bar was all dark, right? No sunlight getting in the bar. I walk out, and I was like, oh shit, it's sunny outside. And we're like driving home. I think he might have hit a curb on the way.
That was a person.
yeah. I'm not going to talk about it.
I was like, welcome to New Orleans, good times.
I had a friend in law school who I think had gotten into the LSU law school in Baton Rouge, I think.
Baton Rouge.
But he kept his dad was a big swinging guy, family lawyer in New Orleans. His dad represented animal
Yeah, I was like, he just likes to get my blood pressure up.
Anyways, so he kept driving like every day from Baton Rouge to New Orleans to go gamble. And then he got kicked out of LSU law school. And then, does Uno have a law school?
Uno?
University of New Orleans?
He's an insider now. He spent a week.
Does Loyola have one?
Loyola does.
Yeah. So he then went to Loyola, got kicked out of Loyola.
What was he getting kicked out for?
Hold on. And then he got into Tulane, got kicked out of Tulane, and then he went into rehab. And then he enrolled at South Texas College of Law in Houston. And this was one of the funnest days ever. The Anna Nicole Smith trial was going on when I was in law school. His dad was on her legal team. And we're walking out of...
Dad was on her legal team?
Yeah.
Oh.
So we're walking out of contracts one day. He's like, guys, come on, we're going to the courthouse. We're like, for what? Why are we going to the probate courthouse? And he opens up this trunk and he's got a stack of the Anna Nicole Smith Playboys. And he goes, we're all getting one signed. And we're like, yes, we are. Anyways, fast forward, I asked...
Did you get it signed?
Yeah, 100%.
Really? Where's it at?
I lost it. I'm sorry. But I asked him, I'm like, dude, why did you get kicked out of all these law schools? He was like, man, for booze. I was like, just for booze? He was like, and gambling. We're like, in gambling? He goes, and academic dishonesty. We're like, there it is. Like, he had done everything you could do to get kicked out of law school, have your application to study law be denied in 2 states, and then have to like go to rehab. But God bless him. Like, that's amazing. Perseverance.
I think what my friend Kyle here is trying to say is that South Texas College of Law builds up individuals. We don't break them down.
We're literally the Harvard of downtown Houston.
I was literally about to say that.
Made it to Yale.
He's now a Bitcoin billionaire.
Well, you know, the thing is, nobody's heard from him since we graduated. So I don't know. My guess is
I'm on the beach, Costa Rica or something.
my guess is he went back to New Orleans, and I don't know. I have no idea.
I think he's got a nice piece of land, a quiet family, and just raising children, enjoying life.
He's probably in-state for Allstate, in-house for Allstate somewhere.
Hey now, come on now.
Somewhere up in Shreveport would be my guess.
So, Mike, where'd you go to college?
Oh, damn right.
And then
Atlanta.
So, did you go straight from there to Tulane Law School?
I took 2 years off between college and law school, kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I worked in Houston for about a year, and then I did AmeriCorps, which is kind of like a quote-unquote domestic school program. Taught school out in very, very far northern California. Like, I was 20 miles from the Oregon border.
Oh, yeah, so you're like north of Sacramento.
Like,
Yeah, I was going to say, what's up there?
not a whole lot.
Okay.
People that need AmeriCorps teacher.
Big trees. They got big trees.
Redwoods.
They can big trees. Redwoods are on the coast.
Yep.
A lot of mountains.
Yep.
Buyers.
Not
They-
that I was there.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not good.
Best area I've ever lived in. Like, just
It's gorgeous there.
unabashed beauty.
Did they assign you there? Or did you get to pick?
I picked.
Okay.
I wanted, kind of way back machine, but I wanted to go to California. At that time, I knew I was going to law school, and I thought that I was going to go to law school in Portland. Thought I was going to go to Lewis Clark, and I kind of viewed it as a stop between Houston and Portland.
You acclimate there.
Yeah. So I did that for a year, and I really realized that I hated the sun going down at 3:30 in the afternoon. It really would, like, despite all the natural beauty, the sun going down at 3:30 in the afternoon really sucked.
He's sad. Yeah, she really sad.
I mean, you like coming out of a bar at 5:30 where the sun's coming up. That plot there.
It's worth it. A bunch of shitty trees. You guys want a drink?
But and it was also during, like, it was also during, like, a El Nino year, a La Nina year, or whatever, and
That's Spanish for the Nina.
Yeah, it's hella Nino. But they say that, right? Hella?
rained every day for like 9 months. Like,
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, when you get up to that Pacific Northwest, you got to get gear. Rain gear, hiking gear, walking gear, camping gear. They got gear.
I really want to go to law school at Pepperdine.
Malibu.
Really, really, really. I did not get in. Not even close.
But I didn't get in.
Not even close.
Is that a religious school?
They are loosely affiliated, I think, with the Church of Christ.
I don't know. I always
I thought it was Jesuit.
Ken Starr,
No, it's not Catholic.
Ken Starr became the dean over there.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me.
That's probably why you wanted to do it, Kyle.
yeah,
Well,
big star.
a lot of people don't know this. I am a huge fan of Ken Starr.
The late.
And he's not just a goblin who worked at Baylor. He's got other stuff going for him. But yeah, Ken Starr was...
He's not just a goblin, is that what he said?
He's not just a goblin.
Kyle, there's like a master's in alternative dispute resolution. If you want to go, I'll go out there with you.
I'm going to get mine in Malta.
Yeah, that'd be good too.
I think they offer it there.
I'm down.
Okay, so Mike, I think so. It's interesting. You started in AmeriCorps, which is a very much like someone who wants to serve and help people, right? I mean, that's like the gist of it. And now you've circled back up, and you're now representing people that need help.
Well, I think I've always represented people that need help. He's on the other side.
Yeah, that's right. Individual.
I can't take the hat off.
No, wait, are you talking about shareholders in Allstate?
Yeah.
Crank up lane shirt.
Steve,
What? That's fair.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so
You can make both happy at the same time.
Exactly.
Right.
yeah.
okay, so
It's a win-win-win.
a couple of questions. So you were a general counsel for, it was like a pharmacy company, and how did that come up? You were at Brown Sims and doing, I assume, insurance defense kind of stuff. How did you end up being?
So I got in contact with the headhunter, and I kind of like reinventing myself out like every 10 years. And it was thought maybe I want to do corporate law, and I did that. So I took that opportunity. I did that for 3 years and really realized that my heart was in litigation. It was kind of like the language they were using on the corporate side, I didn't really understand.
EBITDA and stuff like that.
Yeah, and we were doing shareholder agreements and all that kind of transactional stuff. I was okay at it. I didn't really understand it, and really what happened is the pharmacy collapsed. Reimbursement rates kind of changed, so the pharmacy collapsed, and I thought really hard about whether or not I wanted to go back to litigation, and then I had got the opportunity at Allstate, and it was like the day I got back to litigation, I was like, we're talking about pleadings and discovery, and I was like,
Yeah, back in the seat.
this I get.
Yeah.
I don't understand this.
All right, so we've touched on this.
You've done research on me, which is impressive.
Yeah, we you think Kyle and I held this together just by ourselves? I'm like, Brown says what?
I was like, we cross our T's and dot our I's, J's and umlauts, sir. How long were you there, Sims?
Oh, wow. Like that he passed.
He's about to cite years.
Yeah, he
What was it, 2 years? You know me better than I do.
crossed the Herbert.
The Herbert threshold.
Crossed the Herbert.
It's like you at Horizon. If you get past this,
I think
your head will explode.
I was there maybe 2 years.
So that's a long time for that flight.
I do have some questions about being on the defense side in the PI world. What was most frustrating from the defense side as what plaintiffs' lawyers do?
I have a guess, but
Good question.
What is something that plaintiffs' lawyers would do that was just the most frustrating from your perspective on the defense?
So here's my what I think about that. And I think you get this on either side. It's the true believer.
Wait, there's not. I thought all of us were true believers on the plaintiff's side. Kyle?
we are now.
Yeah, we are now.
So, but it's
Like, I know we used to weaponize 18001s, and we deserve to have them taken away because they genuinely were abused and shouldn't have been, but we did it because we could.
I think the defense side was abusing it too. I think 1801 was very, very frustrating because it was like, I've got a perfectly good affidavit. It's legit from a good provider who kind of knows what he's talking about. And you're going to say I'm not providing you notice of what he's going to contest? Really? I had a 1801 hearing one time. I think I was in Kyle Carter's court.
Great judge. Love comment.
Amazing person.
Thank you, Judge, for your service.
I will agree with you now.
There you go.
But it was an 1801 argument, and I think before I crossed the threshold of the bar, I'm going to deny that motion.
Yep.
Do I get to argue? Yeah, you can argue. I'm still going to deny it.
Yeah.
What we call that on our side of the aisle is fairness.
Yeah, so that, again, for the non-lawyer litigators, 1801 is a Civil Practice and Remedies Code statute that it was designed to expedite things and lower costs so that instead of bringing a doctor down to court to prove up the reasonable and necessary medical charges, plaintiffs' lawyers could file an affidavit in lieu of live testimony so doctors could treat patients and not be sitting at the courthouse. And then the defendant had the ability to file a counter affidavit that would say, no, those are not right. This is the right amount of billing. And then it got very, as Bill said, got very perverse and gamesman.
Since COVID.
And then law.
If it came up, there are a lot of gamesmanship to it. And our view on the defense side was, if I can get my 1801 affidavit not struck, I at least can get you, or can require you to provide an expert to come testify at trial. Which on when you have a case that's an ER, $12,000 in Cairo.
Yeah, you increase the cost of litigation past the cost of why it's worth to go get justice.
But when we were before the reforms to it, was like it got to a point I was like, I don't even want to file one anymore because it's not going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be a waste of money, and we're going to have to pay for it. I get it. And there was no trigger so back when we still could, we would serve our 18001 affidavits with our petition.
Yeah.
And so the timing would immediately start before they've got,
30 days.
Yeah, they got.
The other thing that I saw a lot was the plaintiff's bar would bury it in page 532.
No, that's silly.
Don't loop us all in with them. I did not do that. I was very honest with mine.
I recently had a in-house firm designate a doctor as a counteraffiant to challenge the bills at a hospital, which is the only hospital where he himself has privileges and a hospital upon which he sits on the supervisory board.
Was this a doctor's own hospital?
No, this was a hospital down in Clear Lake. The doctor's in ortho, and he literally helps set the rates that he is testifying are not reasonable and necessary.
Yeah, I had a couple of those.
I'm familiar with that case.
Well, and so interestingly enough, I thought about getting him stricken, and then I was like, no, I'm going to cross-designate him and bring him live.
Am I familiar with that case?
It's possible. Yeah.
Kyle was telling me about it. He was like, there's a great defense lawyer on the other side.
He's tall and handsome and really smart.
You'll meet him one day.
All right, so this
I can do the handsome on that tall.
Yeah.
The okay, a little inside baseball going. So let me ask a bigger question. So, and it goes off what Bill's saying. What, and I'm going to have a corollary to this, so it's not one-sided. What would you recommend to your now fellow plaintiff lawyers? How can they
to do different?
Yeah, how can they prepare their cases? How can they work with defense counsel? Maybe try to be collaborative with their opposing counsel. Maybe not see the adjuster necessarily as some enemy, evil devil, but maybe someone that you can encourage to offer more money.
I think at the end of the day, people are people. They're trying to do their jobs. They're trying to be the best they can at doing their jobs, whatever that job might be.
And you might be a goblin.
Might be a what?
A good goblin.
That's a Ken Starr reference.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, I gotcha. So people are trying to do their jobs the best they can. So it's what I would tell when I was on the phone with Kyle, right? Like, I'm trying to negotiate. On the defense side, I was always about trying to get cases settled. I love trying cases, but if I get a case settled in 20 minutes or getting with somebody like you, getting settled in a half day, I'd rather do that than spend 3 days in trial. It's just better use of my time, right?
Sure.
So it was give a number that the defense counsel can sell. If you give some crazy number, defense counsel will be like, I can't do anything with that. But give me a number that I can sell. If you can give me a number that I can sell, I can see what I can do.
That's kind of a new approach that I've started in the last probably year and a half, which is if I have a good relationship with defense counsel, I'll say, hey, this is where I want to settle. Do you want me to give you a $5 million demand or a $3 million demand? Which one makes your job easier? If they give, if the number that the range I'm looking for doesn't shock them and they're like, yeah, okay, we're in the same ballpark. So I've started doing that and it's been effective. So,
well, and the other thing that I think is when I was evaluating a case, I would look at each individual medical bill. And I'm not, when I was staff counsel, I was not dealing with $3 million case. I was dealing with the $100,000 or maybe $500 or really mostly it was the 30 to 50 cases, right? Or 30 to 50 to 100. Sure. When you looked at the bills individually, did those bills shock the consciousness? Like if there was an ESI, for example.
Are you telling me that MRI shouldn't cost $7,000 each?
I'm not telling you that. I was telling you about both those kind of just good. No, but what I was seeing a lot of ESIs that are like $40,000. I'm like,
that's a lot.
I'll put that for a jury any day of the week.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you were in there for 3 minutes and you can charge $40,000. Really?
But the counters on those are like $1,500.
Yeah.
From the defense side.
I think Medicare pays like $700. Yeah.
I think bills that don't shock the consciousness are a little more persuasive.
Sure, absolutely.
Crazy.
And I think we all know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And there's definitely don't feel compelled to answer this, but from the insurance side, do they look at the lawyers and like, okay, who's worked the case up, who actually has gone to the courthouse? Does that factor into valuation on their side?
I can tell you what I think.
Yeah, sure.
I think that in my evaluations, who the attorney was on the other side made a difference in how I was evaluating the case.
Got it.
On the 30, 50, 100 cases, the $100,000, worth cases.
And you're talking about the policy limit.
Yeah, the policy limit. So $30,000 is your state minimum, 50 is the next rung up, and then 100, and then you get the 1 plus 3s. From that, there's a crew of a lot of really good lawyers in that, and there's a crew that kind of only do bigger ones, and then there's some that do everything. In that 30, 50, 100 where you can try a case in a week, who was a plaintiff's attorney where you were like, wow, that person stands out?
Not going there.
Really? Okay.
Not going to go there.
We're peers now.
But he was kind of wanting it to be Bill Ogden.
No, I don't think we've had a case together.
No, we've never had a case together.
He had heard it.
Here's what I'm not going to use. I still have colleagues on the other side. that I'm very good friends with, and I don't want to undermine anything that they're trying to do in terms of defending their clients. And that's the only reason why I'm...
No, that's fair. I'm in no way ever going to push. On the defense side, is there anybody that you had to work with that you respected? And like thought, wow, that person stands out as a lawyer.
Well, you and I were talking offline, I think, in my time at Johnson Trent.
Yeah.
They're fantastic lawyers over there.
Very well. I agree.
They do a lot of great work. I think Cooper Jackson is good. Up from Conroe. I think they're good at what they do. We work with them a lot. On the appellate side,
Dead silence.
I know. I'm just like, it's on the tip of my tongue. Sarah Allen.
He's sitting to your...
Sarah Allen.
Is very good at what she does.
Yeah.
And Ronald Streppo. I think they're good at what they do on the defense side.
Okay.
Let me ask you an easy one, and everybody can answer this individually.
It's Kyle. That's the answer.
Who's your least favorite judge?
Currently sitting in Harris County.
No, just who's your least favorite judge?
Say Judge Judy.
I was just going to say Learned Hand.
I was going to say, so, yeah.
Least Roger B. Tawney.
Joe Brown.
I think...
Name someone who's passed away.
No way the mic picked that up. We won't repeat it. Blur his face on what he says. But we heard. And it's not that...
It's you're okay there, I think.
We'll blur that one out.
So the okay,
But I agree with you. Flip sides, which is crazy.
Yeah. Because I think all the judges in here can are
That is the most inconsistent place you could walk right now. If you can get in the door.
Here's my thing with judges. When I'm going into a court, I want predictability. I want to know how a court's going to rule so I can probably evaluate the case. And I want to know when I'm going to trial. I want to know when I'm going to trial. I don't want to be called to be fought saying you need to be here at 1:30. It ain't happening.
Yeah, I think it's very important for judges who have practiced like y'all have practiced, where they know what it's like to try a case and how hard that is, even without added pressure, unnecessary pressure, I'd say sometimes. So, I mean, yeah, those are maybe Kyle, we could always like to talk about positives, like good judges who have practiced and like some of the ones we'll bring on this year in 2024.
So
as we go into election season.
I actually have an opinion about electing judges. See if you agree with it. Because we were of the same vintage, which saw a massive shift in the makeup of the bench here in Harris County.
2008?
Well, over the course of like 2 cycles, it went...
It started with Obama.
All red to purple to all blue. And that happened like right in the middle of our career.
Right.
And I've always felt like when it was all red, about a quarter of the judges were like genius, fantastic, worked hard. About a quarter of the judges were like unnecessarily mean, lazy, capricious. And then about 50% of them were like, they're just doing their best, right? They're trying, but they're doing their best. And then you throw all the reds out and you bring in all the blues, and the same basic numbers still apply. Like a solid quarter are just like smart, hardworking, courteous public servants. A quarter like probably couldn't litigate their way out of a paper bag, and they don't want to.
These opinions are not representative of the dirty verdict or Bill Ogden as a person.
50%
or Peter Taaffe or Mike
are like B+, C- folks.
I mean, geez,
It's not A-.
how many percent is that? Did you think of that?
But like you, this is all nonsense. All the judges, blue and red, are amazing people.
They're great people.
Great and smart.
I do think, and I do sense that after a judge has been on the bench for a while, that they start to get a little frustrated with lawyers, and they don't maybe tolerate a lot of foolishness.
I don't blame them.
I don't either.
I think discovery disputes.
It doesn't.
It's just work it out.
So
Just figure it out.
I was on the State Bar Ethics Committee for 6 years, and 2 of them I served as a panel chair, which meant I served as the judge for disbarments.
We're not calling you Judge Kyle.
You are going to call me
For the last time.
You know what, Bill? I don't want to be Judge Kyle. I want to be Justice Herbert. And this is so I did a couple of trials, and afterwards, some of the litigants said, you did a really good job. Like that was really great. Would you ever think about being a judge? I was like, absolutely not. Listening to you guys fight for 3 days every 6 months about whether or not this affidavit comes in, like I would blow my face off, like kill me. Like when I walk into, I was just about to say the name of the judge.
Yeah, you were. I was like,
You're notoriously, if I was going to say he notoriously does not like discovery disputes.
already said he.
And I don't blame him. Like, I get it. I would do the same thing. I would have a standing rule like the federal rules that if you lose a discovery dispute, you're going to get sanctioned.
I don't think I've ever been in front of a judge that enjoyed a good discovery dispute.
Well, I have been in front of some that I don't know if they enjoyed it, but they were certainly verbose about it. But yeah, nobody likes it. For the most part, you know what you're going to get. You know what you're going to have to give up. And I think as a lawyer, do that as a matter of course. I rarely get involved in discovery fights, but when I do, it's nasty.
It depends what the issue is too. I mean, there are issues I'll die on, and there's hills that I will die on. If I lose it, I lose it. But I think some of the discovery disputes we get into are just like, really.
And some of them on the plaintiff side are purposeful.
Yeah.
We will weaponize discovery to set it up for a motion to compel, to set it up for a sanction.
Mike was in the courtroom with me last year where I had to file a motion to compel to get an insurance agreement on a UIM case for a case that was like 2 years old.
I talked to you afterwards. Yeah, what is going on? Well, I said the funny story about that. I don't think you knew I was in the.
I didn't know you were there until we got we were in the elevator.
You were talking with Wes.
I don't know who I was talking to.
You were talking to somebody, and I was like, "By the way, I'm right here." And
I wasn't complaining about that hearing. I was complaining about a different case.
And what you were complaining about my employer at the time.
True.
And I think
I was there for like 2 hearings in one day. But
I think that was like the first time I actually seen your times.
You're like, hey, by the way, I'm Mike Pita. Why are you talking shit about me? I was like, because I hate you, Mike Pita.
Well, I think what I said is, hey, if you have any issues, you get a call.
100% accurate.
Yeah, which made you feel like a complete asshole.
You'd be shocked how much it takes to make me feel like a...
No, I wouldn't.
All right, so Mike, again, harkening back on your prior career. So if you're a plaintiff's lawyer, to maximize the result or put your client in the best chance to have a good result, work the case up. Like,
don't shot the cautiousness.
Yep. And don't tick off the lawyer or the adjuster like unnecessarily. Anything else?
I think those are the big things, especially on the case that I was dealing with. I still, I'm old school. I think relationships matter. If I could trust you, I will fight for you. Because me fighting for you to get something that is below policy limits protects my client.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. At the end of the day, let's say that case goes to trial. I didn't, as a manager, I didn't care what the result was. As long as I didn't have to make a call at the end of the trial, I'm good. And me having to make a call at the end of the trial was an excess verdict. Then my life becomes a little miserable. But as long as I don't have to make a call at the end of the trial, my client's protected. It's not a judgment about policy.
It's what the policy was for.
Right. My client is protected. I'm good. I can simple enough with that.
I do have a question. I kind of tried to word it earlier, but it didn't. Switching from the defense side to now the plaintiff side, is there anything that you're bringing that you're going to do different than what you've seen from the plaintiff side so far in your career of a couple decades?
That's a great question, and I don't know if I quite know the answer to that question yet.
Come back for Mike Pita Part 2.
Yeah. In a year, he's just going to come back in like a tank top. Definitely. He's walking out, he's just smoking a cigarette inside. Like, here.
Well, Thiessen's had a standing Halloween invitation, so...
Yeah, you can come back on Halloween.
Yeah.
We'll call it the Pita Reckoning.
I'll be there. No, I think it's what I'm hoping to do really at the end of the day is to be able to leverage my experience and my relationships to best be able to to prosecute my client's claim. I said defend.
You were going to say defend my plaintiff's rights, constitutional.
I mean, to be fair, that Thiessen's defend people on the criminal side. So it's a kind of but the criminal defense and the plaintiff personal injury is a very similar.
Well, and that's the issue that was intriguing to me when Mark and I first started talking, was kind of the synergy that we can have between his criminal defense practice and a plaintiff's practice, and taking his trial experience with my trial experience. Because I don't think that you get that a lot is lawyers have actually tried cases. And really, at the end of the day, when we kind of start getting into the nuts and bolts of this, the defense side knowing, we'll try this case.
Yeah.
I don't care. We'll try this case, and whatever happens. So you can have control of the case right now, or we can give it to a jury.
Yeah.
I like my chances in front of a jury.
Especially in Harris County now.
All right, Mike, we've been going for like 50 minutes.
Yeah.
The people on the Dirty Verdict are going to love this. Any famous last words?
I just appreciate you having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. It's excited to have you.
It's
Welcome to the fraternity.
When I saw your LinkedIn, his Swish, I immediately texted these guys and said, we need to have Mike on because it's a very fascinating shift over.
well. I'm excited to make a shift. I think it's you know, I was thinking about it today. I was writing something out, and I was using defendant and plaintiff and whatever I was writing out, and I kept referring to my client as defendant. So I was like, wait a second, that's not what I'm doing anymore. So I'm excited. I'm excited for what Mark and I can do to represent plaintiffs. I think it's going to be. We're going to do really well. I'm really excited to see what we can do and to be able to actually talk with y'all and y'all have respect for me for a change.
Right. Well, come back in a year to all your great success, and we wish you all the best. It's going to be great.
Your homework is for the next 7 months, be thinking about what you're going to wear on the Halloween edition.
I'll be Star Child from Kiss, just so we don't look the same. Because you got that look like you were probably going to do that too.
Brit Smith from The Cure.
Oh,
That'd be kind of
That would be actually pretty cool.
all right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us. If you enjoy this, like, follow, share. What else, Bill? All that stuff.
Yeah, I think you got it.
Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast.
OnlyFans.
YouTube.
We will be here. You watch the Instagram stuff.
only things in mind.
That's Kyle. All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Great job, Mike. Thanks for doing